They say time heals all wounds, but if you walk down to the edge of Miller's Creek, past the old rusted sawmill where the wind howls like a lonely ghost, you'll find out that some wounds never close. You'll find out that for some, time doesn't move at all. It just stands still, frozen in a single moment of hope. This isn't just a story about a dog. This is a story about a promise made in the golden light of autumn and kept through the unforgiving ice of 10,000 winters. It began on a Tuesday in October, the kind of day where the air smells like dry leaves and wood smoke. Elias Vance was 72 years old, a man whose hands were mapped with the scars of a lifetime spent in the timber woods. He lived alone in a cabin that felt a little too big since his wife had passed. The silence was his only roommate. Until he found Cooper. Cooper was a mess, a scrawny, mud-caked Labrador mix shivering under the porch of the general store. His ribs were showing and his eyes were clouded with the kind of fear only a betrayed soul knows. Elias didn't say a word. He just sat down on the gravel, reached into his coat pocket, and pulled out a piece of jerky. He didn't try to grab him, he just waited. 10 minutes, 20, until finally that cold, wet nose touched his palm. Elias tied his own old red wool scarf around the dog's neck, a makeshift leash. But more than that, it was a badge. It meant you belong to someone now. For the next 5 years, Elias and Cooper were a single unit. If he saw the old blue pickup truck rattling down the mountain road, he saw a gray-haired man behind the wheel and a dog with a faded red scarf slapping in the wind from the passenger window. They had a language all their own. A whistle meant it was time for the creek. A double tap on the porch meant dinner. But their most sacred ritual happened every Friday. Elias would take the bus from the town square to the city clinic for his checkups, and every Friday at exactly 8 a.m., Cooper would walk him to that bus stop. Elias would pat his head, tuck the red scarf into his collar, and say the same 4 words. "Cooper, wait for me." And Cooper would wait. He'd sit on that green wooden bench, watching the bus disappear into the mountain mist. And at 5 p.m., when the brakes screeched and the doors hissed open, Cooper would be there, tail thumping against the pavement like a drumbeat of joy. Then came the winter of 2016. A storm was brewing in the north, a once-in-a-generation blizzard, the locals called it. The sky turned the color of bruised slate. It was a Friday. Elias looked at the gathering clouds, then at Cooper. He almost stayed home, but the pain in his chest was sharp that morning. He needed his medicine. He wrapped the red scarf tight around Cooper's neck, rubbed his ears, and whispered, "Cooper, wait for me. I'll be back before the first flake hits the ground." The bus pulled away. Cooper watched until the red taillights faded into the gray. By noon, the world vanished. The wind screamed through the valley, stripping the bark from the trees. The snow didn't just fall, it attacked. The town shut down, the power lines snapped. And the 5 p.m. bus, it never came. Hours passed. The temperature plummeted to 10 below. The station master, a man named Jim, tried to coax Cooper inside the warm station.
"Come on, boy. He ain't coming tonight. The roads are blocked. Come get by the heater."
Cooper didn't even look at him. He sat on that green bench, his fur turning white with frost, his body shivering so hard his teeth rattled. He was a statue of loyalty. He had a job to do. He had a promise to keep. Eventually, the storm got too bad even for Jim. He had to lock up and head home. He left a bowl of food and a pile of blankets under the bench. But he knew. Everyone in town knew. Elias Vance had been taken to the hospital in the city, and the mountain pass was buried under 10 feet of snow. Cooper stayed. Day 2. Day 3. The red scarf was the only splash of color in a world of blinding white. The local sheriff tried to pick him up, but Cooper wouldn't budge. He growled, not out of anger, but out of desperation. If I leave this bench, how will he find me? If I'm not here when the doors open, he'll be all alone. Elias never made it back. A heart that had given so much love simply gave out that Friday night in a hospital bed miles away. He died with a photograph of a dog in his hand and a prayer on his lips that Cooper would find his way home. But dogs don't understand hospitals. They don't understand heart failure. They only understand the last thing they were told. The snow eventually melted. Spring brought the green back to the valley. A new bus driver took the route. New people sat on the bench, but Cooper remained. He became the ghost of the square. He grew thin. His muzzle turned white. His joints ached with the damp mountain air. The red scarf grew tattered and faded to a dull pink, but it never left his neck. For 3 years, Cooper greeted every single bus, 5 p.m., every day. He would stand up on shaky legs, his eyes searching the faces of the strangers stepping off. He would sniff the air, looking for the scent of Old Spice and pine wood. And every day when the bus pulled away and the platform grew quiet, he would lay back down and put his head on his paws. The townspeople loved him. They built him a small insulated doghouse next to the bench. They took turns bringing him steak and warm water. He was everyone's dog, yet he belonged to no one but a man who was no longer there. It was another Friday, 12 years after they first met. A light snow began to fall, the gentle kind that looks like diamonds in the streetlights. Cooper was very old now. He couldn't stand up anymore. He lay on his side on the old wooden bench, his breath coming in shallow, ragged puffs. The 5 p.m. bus hissed to a stop. The doors opened. No one got off. The driver, who had known Cooper's story for years, stepped out and knelt beside him. He stroked the dog's matted fur. "It's okay, Cooper," he whispered. "You did it. You waited. You can go now." Cooper's ears flickered. Suddenly, his tail gave one last weak thump against the wood. Through the haze of his fading vision, the world changed. The snow stopped. The sun began to shine with a warmth he hadn't felt in a decade. He heard a whistle. A clear, sharp whistle from the woods. Then a double tap on a wooden porch. Cooper looked up. Standing by the tracks was a man in a flannel shirt, holding out a piece of jerky, his blue pickup truck idling in the background. For the first time in years, Cooper's legs felt strong. He stood up, his fur turning back to a deep, healthy gold. He barked, a loud, joyful sound that echoed through the mountains. He ran toward the man, the red scarf trailing behind him like a banner of victory. He didn't have to wait anymore. The next morning, the town found him. He looked peaceful, tucked under the bench where he had spent half his life. The red scarf was finally still. They didn't just bury him, they raised a statue. If you go to that small town today, you'll see it. A bronze dog sitting on a green bench looking toward the road. And every winter, the people of the town come together and tie a fresh, bright red wool scarf around the statue's neck. Because in a world that changes every second, Cooper reminded us of the one thing that never should: loyalty. He was just a dog, but he taught us how to be human.